If this is the year that you're going to lose the weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio for today's edition of Just the Truth. We'll jump right in. Daily Caller headline, Trump blows Biden out of the water with record-setting Palm Beach fundraiser. It was a big weekend for the Trump campaign fundraising. We have the details here for you. President Joe Biden may fail to get on Ohio's general election ballot after the state's top election official warned his campaign about missing a key deadline. What would it mean if Joe Biden's not on the Ohio ballot in November? We'll talk about that a bit, too. Meanwhile, Florida is no longer in play as a swing state as GOP voters surge over Democrats by nearly 900,000 registered voters, according to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And in an opinion piece this weekend, Victor David Hanson wrote a column titled 11 Ways Biden and His Handlers Are Hell-Bent on Destroying America. We've got that for you. And will you be watching the solar eclipse today? We have some safety tips, and we'll clear up a few common myths and misconceptions, as well as your comments on the Ferman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Hope you'll join the conversation on today's edition of Just the Truth. You can leave a voice message. You can call 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Just leave a quick voice message. Send me a text. Emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Remember just over a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, how proud the Democrats were when Joe Biden held his fundraiser at Radio City Music Hall in New York City? He shared the stage with former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. They raised, over $25 million, supposedly the largest political fundraiser in history. Well, stand back, Joe Biden, not to be outdone. Here's the headline from the Daily Caller from the weekend. Trump blows Biden out of the water with record-setting Palm Beach fundraiser. Former President Donald Trump brought in, we're told, over $50 million at a campaign fundraiser in Palm Beach, Florida on Saturday night, the Republican National Committee announced in a news release. The haul far outpaces that of President Joe Biden's $26 million that he brought in his ritzy New York City fundraiser. That was March 28th, alongside, again, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, had other celebrities there at Radio City Music Hall. Trump's fundraising event broke every fundraising record in history for a Republican and Democrat, according to the RNC's press release. Trump campaign senior advisors Chris LaCivita and Susie Weil said in the statement, tonight will be an incredible night for President Trump and the Republican Party, raising an astounding $50.5 million. They went on to say, meanwhile, after locking up the nomination, one of the fastest primaries in modern political history, Donald J. Trump is winning poll after poll and proving that the enthusiasm is on his side. It's clearer than ever we have the message, the operation, and the money to propel President Trump to victory on November the 5th. According to the statement, the fundraising event follows the Trump campaign. The RNC and its affiliated Joint Fundraising Committee is bringing in over $65 million in March, ending the month with just over $93 million on hand. RNC Chair Michael Whatley and co-chair Laura Trump said in a statement also, the success of tonight's event is proving what we already know. Americans are fed up with Biden's record of failure. From the open southern border and sky-high inflation to the migrant crime crisis that has made everyone less safe, they said. The Republican Party is united behind the effort to elect President Donald Trump, and Americans are lining up to join our movement and retire crooked Joe Biden once and for all. Now, Biden's campaign announced earlier this past weekend that it had raised $90 million in March, entered April with more than double that of the Republicans' cash on hand at $192 million. Trump continues to lead Biden narrowly in national and battleground state polling, although that seems to be tightening up with some of the reports that we got late last week by Real Clear Politics. The only swing state that Biden is ahead of Trump is in Pennsylvania, where the president currently has a 0.1 of a point lead. President Joe Biden, speaking of the battleground states, Biden may fail to get on Ohio's general election ballot after the state's top election official warned his campaign about missing a key deadline on Friday. So what would this mean if Joe Biden's not even on the ballot in Ohio, one of those crucial states? We'll get into that in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about losing that excess weight as we head into the summer. You want to be as healthy as possible. You want to fit into that swimsuit, right? Well, I have just the way that you can do that. Soon to be 4 years ago, I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition in the Greenville office. I was able to lose 30 pounds pretty quickly, let me add, just over a matter of a few months, and I've been able to maintain that weight. And more importantly, I was given the tools. I was taught all about nutrition and my relationship with food. This whole program is based on the science of nutrition, what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. And Dr. Ashley Lucas and her entire team, they'll teach you, they'll give you the skills as well, not only to lose the weight, but to be able to maintain that weight for the rest of your life. Call today, set up your initial consultation. 864-252-4925. That's 864-252-4925. Get on the calendar and start your journey. And I promise you, if you go ahead and get started now, by early summer, you too can be talking about losing 10, 20, 30 pounds or more. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. This could be quite interesting. This story out of Ohio, where the Ohio Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, he's a Republican, by the way, notified top Democrat officials that their party's national convention is scheduled to occur past their deadline for certifying a presidential candidate in Ohio. This could get interesting. This could get kind of sticky here for the Democrats. LaRose wrote to the Ohio Democrat Party chairwoman, Liz Walters, according to a letter that was actually first reported on by ABC News. The Democrat National Convention is scheduled to convene on August 19th, 2024, which occurs more than a week after the August 7th deadline to certify a presidential candidate to office. LaRose legal counsel Paul DeSantis wrote in the letter, "I'm left to conclude that the Democrat National Committee must either move up its nominating convention or the Ohio General Assembly must act by May 9th, 2024, 90 days prior to a new law's effective date, to create an exception to the statutory requirement." Biden's campaign did not immediately respond to requests for comment from Fox News and others, but did tell ABC News that they were monitoring the situation in Ohio and remain confident that Joe Biden will be on the ballot in all 50 states. The Ohio Democrat Party did not respond publicly to LaRose's letter. The Democrat National Convention, during which the party selects its presidential candidate, comes more than a week after Ohio's deadline for doing so. This sounds to me like kind of poor planning on the Democrats' part, doesn't it, to you? Now, I understand that the party which holds power typically holds their convention later. The Republicans will convene in July. But don't you think that they maybe should have planned a little better to meet these deadlines? News of the letter came the same day that an internal memo showing some panic within the Democrat Party over its, quote, nonpartisan voter registration efforts that they say actually is helping Donald Trump rather than Joe Biden. This is a little bit of a twist to the story as well. Democrats across the country have become increasingly concerned over the amount of support that Donald Trump is pulling from usually reliable demographics, and donors have been bickering over an internal memo casting doubt on whether the party should even continue using nonprofits to register unregistered voters over fears that it's actually helping Donald Trump and not Joe Biden. This is according to a story published in the Washington Post. The memo explained, indeed, if we were to blindly register non-voters and get them on the rolls, we would be distinctly aiding Trump's quest for a personal dictatorship. The memo casting doubt on long-standing Democrat voter registration push that typically has resulted in favorable results in previous elections for Democrats. The memo argues that Democrats should focus their registration efforts only in specific heavily pro-Biden populations, and the Washington Post explained that the rise in Trump support among non-registered voters has run up against a long-held Democrat policy priority of growing the voter rolls. And I will say, the Democrat Party probably has done a better job over the years of registering voters as opposed to what the GOP has done. Evidently, though, they're registering the wrong people now. Or maybe this is a sign of the times. Maybe this is just an indicator of what's going to happen in November, that the Democrats, just like you and me, are fed up with Biden's policies as well. Maybe they're tired of paying what they have to pay for food as they go to the grocery store. Maybe they're tired, too, of what it costs them to fill their vehicle up with gasoline. Maybe finally, even the Democrats are starting to catch on to Joe Biden and his cronies. So some of his policies, like the Green New Deal, some of his energy policies that are actually going to cost us more, and it's going to hurt the middle class and the lower income people, but they don't seem to care. Meanwhile, Florida no longer is in play as a swing state. You know, Florida has seen some tight races. Remember the 2000 race between Al Gore and George Bush? Well, evidently, and this is according to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he was on Sunday Morning Futures to discuss his immigration lawsuit against the Biden administration, the blue states residents moving to Florida and the state's protections against squatters. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he said he believes that Democrats don't stand a chance in the Sunshine State going forward. This comes as reports indicate that registered GOP voters now outpace Democrats in Florida by nearly 900,000 registered voters. That's almost 1 million people. DeSantis said, you're talking about 1 million plus voter registration shift in the state of Florida. He told Maria Bartiromo that the older numbers indicated Republicans were behind their Democrat adversaries by nearly 300,000 registered voters back in 2018. That has seemingly turned. Local reports have affirmed DeSantis' claim, including one report from USA Today that alluded to the state's former identity as the nation's most significant swing state, perhaps most notably for its role, again, in the Bush-Gore fiasco, the hanging chads. Remember that? The report reads, Republicans now hold the biggest advantage in voter registration either major party has held in almost 4 decades, noting that the GOP reached a 851,417 voter lead as of last month. This is the most significant lead by either of the two major parties since Democrats dominated the state in the late 1980s. The state's panhandle, vibrantly red when you look at the map, is suspected to further propel Republicans to victory this November, perhaps making Florida an afterthought, as the report speculates. DeSantis, in an ex-post, cited local outlet Florida's Voice, which compiled data indicating that Republican support has climbed even further to that almost 900,000 mark as of April the 4th. In that same amount of time, Democrats reportedly lost 1,000 voters. That was just like a week's time. DeSantis said, Florida is off the board. It is a Republican state. We used to be a 1-point state every election hung on. How would Florida go? That's not true anymore, and I think that's a good thing for the party, Governor DeSantis says. 864-477-5639 is the Ferman Ford text line. Your comments are welcome. This could really be an indicator of what's in store for November, right? So you have Biden potentially not on the ballot in Ohio, and Florida with almost 1 million more Republican registered voters than Democrats. I like how that's starting to sound, don't you? I like our chances. Your comments are welcome on the Ferman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. And in an opinion piece over the weekend, Victor Davis Hanson wrote a column titled 11 Ways Biden and His Handlers Are Hell-Bent on Destroying America. You want to take a minute to guess what some of those are? You're welcome to text them into the Ferman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. I'll give you a minute to do that. While you're doing that, I will talk with you about Ferman Ford. You're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a pre-owned vehicle that you can trust. Ferman Ford, they're locally owned, family operated in Lawrence. And if you're looking for a vehicle or a great pre-owned vehicle, this is where you need to go. If you're looking for service, maybe you need service on your existing vehicle, but you call around and it's a 2-week, 3-week, 4-week wait. You're not going to get that at Ferman Ford. Go online to FermanFord.com, FermanFord.com. You can check out their inventory online. And here's what I love about Ferman Ford. Again, local business, locally owned, family owned. When you go to Ferman Ford, or when you call Ferman Ford, when you email Ferman Ford, you have access to a Ferman family member. Jim Ferman, Matthew Ferman. They're there to help you navigate some of the great deals they have. And boy, do they have a wonderful inventory. I was there just a few weeks ago visiting with Jim and Matthew. They have a great selection of both new vehicles and pre-owned vehicles. And again, you can trust that Ferman Ford has gone over those pre-owned vehicles before they're going to sell them. And again, you need service on your existing vehicle. Ferman Ford has you covered there too. Find them online, FermanFord.com, FermanFord.com. Victor Davis Hanson, writing in an opinion piece on the Daily Caller, writes, why are those controlling President Biden using him to advance so much of a destructive agenda that it will likely end America as we know it? If someone wished to destroy America, could he do anything more catastrophic than what we currently see and hear each day? What would an existential enemy do that we have not already done to ourselves? Here are 11 now familiar steps to civilizational destruction. And Hansen starts with number 1. Wipe out a 2,000-mile border. Allow 10 million foreign nationals to either to enter unlawfully, have no audit of any, nullify all federal immigration laws, let in toxic drugs that kill hundreds of thousands of Americans a year, give free support to those millions who broke the law, smear any objectors as racist and xenophobes. Number 2, run up a $35 trillion debt. Keep adding $1 trillion to it each 100 days. Defame anyone wishing to cut wild spending as cruel and inhumane. Number 3, Hansen writes, appease or subsidize enemies like Iran and China. Demonize allies like Israel. Allow terrorists to attack Americans without adequate response. See Islam as either similar or superior to Christianity. Make amends to leftist governments for supposedly past toxic American international behavior. Follow the lead of international agencies like the UN, ICC, and WHO to atone for past American neocolonial imperialist behavior. Recede to second-tier international status befitting American decline. Number 4, he writes, in a multiracial democracy, redefine identity only as one's tribal affiliation. Ensure each identity group rivals the other for victimhood and the state spoils its contours. Reboot all political issues by race and sex oppressors and oppressed. Destroy all meritocratic standards of admission, retention, promotion, and condemnation. Number 5, recalibrate violent crime as understandable cry of the heart expressions of social justice. Ensure no bail and same-day release for arrested, repeat violent felons. Emphasize with the violent emphasize with the violent killer and rapists ignore their victims, especially if they're slain police officers. Hansen goes on to write number 6, emasculate the military by using non-meritocratic standards of race, gender, and sexual orientation to determine promotion and condemnation. Deliberately impugn as racist and insurrectionists the largest demographic in the military who in recent wars died at twice their numbers in the population so that they leave or never join the military. Encourage retired high officers to slander their commander-in-chief, cut the defense budget, stop producing sufficient weapons, but leave billions of dollars worth of arms to terrorists. Sound familiar? He writes number 7, reinvent the justice system to indict, bankrupt, convict, jail, and eliminate political opponents. Use ballot removal, impeachment, civil suits, and state and federal indictments rather than elections to defeat an opponent. Mob the homes of non-compliant Supreme Court justices and attack them personally by name. Number 8 on Victor Davis Hanson's list. Encourage the fusion of the bureaucratic state with the electronic media to form a powerful force for political audit, surveillance, censorship, and coercion. Marry the FBI to Silicon Valley and hire its contractors to warp the news and hound supposed enemies of the people. Number 9, make war on affordable gasoline and natural gas. Substitute inefficient, unreliable, and expensive wind and solar power, even as energy prices nearly bankrupt the middle class. And number 10, marry late, but preferably not at all. Consider males toxic, especially boys. Have no children, or as few as possible. Otherwise, assure children they are entitled and must be sheltered. Raise them to have grievances against past generations and current norms. And then he wraps things up with number 11. Turn world-class universities into indoctrination centers. Suspend the Bill of Rights on campuses. Train youth to graduate despising their own culture and civilization. Recruit foreign students from hostile nations to subsidize campus commissar bloat. Replace the curriculum with therapeutic propaganda. Ban the SAT and ACT and do not evaluate comparative high school GPAs. Ensure merit does not select the student body. Charge tuition higher than the rate of inflation. Bill the government when students default on their loans. Why could those controlling the president be doing all the above? 1, they're delusional and think their socialist and globalist agendas are working and will save us. 2, they're raging nihilists who do not like the U.S. and deliberately want to destroy as a service to the world. A ruined U.S. is preferably to a strong America. 3, he writes, they are Jacobean revolutionaries who are intentionally erasing the old United States as a prerequisite for creating an entirely new America that will arise from the ashes with no trace or even memory of its past. 4, they have no agenda. They're aimless fools and utter incompetence. These bunglers just wing it day to day in response to what their radical media, academic, and political masters dictate is necessary for them to retain power. They have no idea of the damage they're doing. Or 5, a bit of 1 through 3, but probably not 4. There's cause for hope among this remaking of America. The people are fed up and will demand an accounting in the fall. We can only hope. Victor Davis Hanson, of course, is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and the author, most recently, of The Dying Citizen. 864-477-5639 is the Ferman Ford text line. Your comments are welcome on the Ferman Ford text line. Jennifer writes, hey, Joey, Andy and I are returning from Nashville. I wanted to tell you that over the weekend, I wore the cap and Andy wore the shirt that you see in the photo to several places, and we had supportive comments everywhere we went, noticeably from young people. That's encouraging, but what is discouraging is that America's mainstay, the Waffle House, is now closed in Davidson County for inside seating from 9 p. until 5 a.m. You can only get to-go orders. One of the waitresses at a Waffle House in Nashville told me, we have so many robberies during that time frame that corporate has shut us down except for to-go orders. A security guard was sitting at a nearby table as she was telling me the story. If the country is so lawless that we can no longer have a late-night breakfast at the Waffle House in Nashville and the rest of Davidson County in Tennessee, what does that say about the state of America today? And it tells us a lot, doesn't it, Jennifer? Thank you for your comment to the Ferman Ford text line. Ray writes, Joey, I'm so thankful for your common sense approach to all the issues of the day. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you listening. You've been a long-time listener. He says, after years of thinking climate change is crazy, I now realize it's real. And when I first read this, Ray, you had me worried there for a minute. He's actually writing this tongue-in-cheek. He says, in the summer, it gets hot, and in the winter, it gets cold. That's climate change. And besides Epstein, didn't commit suicide. Happy Monday. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. Happy Monday to you as well. Faye writes, Joey, watched Charlie Kirk at a conference in Texas. Was so good to see lots of young people there. We may have a chance to win our country back with their help. Their questions were very intelligent. Maybe they have been listening to Just the Truth. You know, Charlie Kirk and his organization, Turning Point USA, it is encouraging to see these young people. If you're discouraged and you're down on our country, go to a Turning Point USA conference or do as Faye did and watch online. There are videos on YouTube and Rumble, and you can, when certain events are coming up, you can go to Charlie's website, Turning Point USA, or just go to charliekirk.com, I think it is, and find out when he has events coming up, and quite often they stream them, and you can watch just as Faye did. But when you see thousands of young people showing up at a Turning Point USA event under Charlie's tutelage, it will give you faith that our country is not lost, that we do have some good days ahead of us. Faye, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I agree with you 100%. It is very encouraging to watch what Charlie Kirk and his group, Turning Point USA, is doing. Our text of encouragement today, this is from Joel, says, fight what you are today to become what you want to be tomorrow. God bless. Thank you, Joel. Your comments are welcome as well. Ferman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. It's 864-477-5639. How about my South Carolina Lady Gamecocks? The women's basketball team won the national championship. Their coach, Dawn Staley, was very emotional as the final buzzer sounded and her team wrapped up. This is her third national championship while coaching there. This time the team took down a young lady, Caitlin Clark, who just took March Madness by storm. And her Iowa Hawkeyes, Carolina ended up beating them 87-75. The Gamecocks held Iowa to 29 points in the second half. It was quite the game. Staley met with ESPN's Holly Rowe after the post-game handshake, visibly emotional, but I want you to listen to what she said. Now, it's kind of hard to hear. It's very noisy, but listen to Dawn Staley.
Coach, you're one of the toughest to ever come out of Philly. We don't see these tears from you often. Why tonight? We serve an unbelievable God. Uncommon favor. Uncommon favor. Unbelievable.
Now, I haven't always agreed with this lady. In fact, there's been a number of times that I've very much disagreed with things that she said. In fact, over the weekend, she was asked about her views on transgenderism, and she made the comment, yeah, you're asking me this question right in the middle of one of the highest points of my career, and you know that my answer is going to blow up on social media, but she still answered. And basically she says that she believes that transgenders should be allowed to play the sport of the sex that they identify with. But let's put that aside for a minute. I was encouraged to hear her say, after winning the national championship, she said, we serve an unbelievable God. This is the unlikeliest group to do it, and sometimes I mean, God is funny like that. He's funny. He rips your heart out, and he makes you believe. He makes you believe the unimaginable. So obviously, Dawn Staley does have some faith, and couldn't be more prouder of South Carolina. They lost in the Final Four to Iowa last season, you may recall. Clark and the Hawkeyes then ran into a talented LSU team in the national championship, and they lost as well. South Carolina, which lost 4 starters to the WNBA, regrouped and relied on talented freshmen to help this year to take them to an undefeated season. That's right. And I honestly did not keep up with them during the regular season. I've just kind of followed them in March Madness. But boy, did they earn this one. It's again the third women's basketball national championship for the Lady Gamecocks under Dawn Staley's coaching. The first was in 2017 over Mississippi State. The latest was 2 seasons ago when they beat UConn. Will you be watching the solar eclipse later today? We have some safety tips for you. We'll clear up a few of the myths and misconceptions coming up in just a moment. Portions of today's show made possible by a Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have absolutely no appliance knowledge? There's so many different options, so many different brands and features. It's tough to figure it out on your own at times, isn't it? You go to one of the big box stores, the only thing they can tell you about the refrigerators, for example, is which aisle they're on. They can't tell you about the features. And look, appliances are not inexpensive. They're rather expensive, actually. And you can't afford to get that wrong. That's why you need to go to Pickens, to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, nearly perfect reviews on Google, and the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they have the knowledge you need to have confidence in your purchase. They'll show you around the warehouse, over 11,000 square feet, slam-packed with new appliances, and they'll help you find the ideal solution. They have expert installation, they have an award-winning service department, and extended warranties. They have you covered well beyond the sale. And Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with up to a 7-year warranty on parts and labor. If you need an appliance, washer, dryer, dishwasher, microwave, stove, whatever it may be, Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they've got you covered. Find them online as well at dawpickens.com. As one of the biggest marvels of science, the solar eclipse, it's a bit of a mystery, isn't it? You hear all these different stories about it, which can lead to some mistaken assumptions. Ahead of today's eclipse, Prevent Blindness, which is a Chicago health and safety organization dedicated to fighting blindness and saving sight, is encouraging eye safety for dispelling some common misconceptions surrounding the eclipse. Jeff Todd, he's president and CEO of the organization. He shared some of the biggest myths and truths around them. Myth number 1, it's okay to look at the sun for just a minute or two. Wrong. He says one common misconception is the belief that it's safe if you just look at it quickly. He said eclipse viewers should never look directly at the sun as it can cause permanent eye damage. He says exposing your eyes to the sun without proper eye protection during a solar eclipse can cause eclipse blindness or retinal burns, also known as solar retinopathy. Todd acknowledged, however, that there is a very brief period during a total solar eclipse when it can be safe to remove your glasses. He said the only time it's safe to do so without proper protection or equipment occurs when the moon is completely covering the sun. And even then, he said, viewers should do so cautiously. Let me just ask you to keep those glasses on. This afternoon, if you're going to watch the eclipse, don't take a chance. Keep the solar eclipse glasses on. He says it's also important to know that not all eclipses are the same. He says it's never safe to look at a partial solar eclipse at any time during the event without proper eye protection. Number 2, it's safe to look at the eclipse through your smartphone. I've heard this several times and seen it online as well. He says watching a solar eclipse on your smartphone camera can put you at risk of accidentally looking at the sun when trying to line up your camera and stage a perfect shot. He warned it's also possible that this could damage your smartphone camera, saying that thinking that it's safe to use your camera's viewfinder is another common misconception. Looking at a solar eclipse through the optical viewfinder of a camera can damage your eyes in the same way that looking at the sun directly without proper protection can. He says it's always safe to photograph an eclipse. However, just don't look through the viewfinder. And then finally, number 3, eclipses emit harmful rays that can cause blindness. Although it's never okay to look directly at the sun, the idea that eclipses emit harmful rays that can cause blindness is a misconception, he said. If you're using proper eye protection and practicing caution, you can safely experience a solar eclipse being outside, he said. Always consult an eye care professional for additional guidance if you have any questions or concerns about eye safety. If you'll be viewing the total eclipse this afternoon, please make safety your top priority. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Appreciate you joining me on this as we kick this new week off. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list, you can do so. Just visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson. Send me a quick text. I'll send you that link if you can't find me. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep your comments coming via the Ferman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Keep those emails coming too, joey@joeyhudson.com. One final thing before I let you go today. Tune in to the Mike Gallagher Show today, Monday through Wednesday of this week, as I'll be hosting for Mike while he is in Japan on vacation. You can listen and watch at mikeonline.com and the Salem News Channel at snc.tv. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you'll plan to join me then. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.